The National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing was formed in 1948 by Bill France Sr. in an attempt to create a governing body to help regulate all of the races that were going on throughout the southeastern United States. Among other things, one of the crucial pieces of NASCAR was the fact that it was stock car racing, and they enforced rules that said anything that raced had to be available for the general public to buy. These rules fall under homologation, and it's something that's been done all throughout motorsports history. They figure which manufacturer is going to create 500 or 1,000 road cars just to have a single race car out on the circuit. And through this, there becomes a natural regulation, as no manufacturer is going to suddenly make a massive leap without a lot of prep work and money. The heyday for this in NASCAR was the 1960s. Throughout the 50s, the cars remained fairly stock. Only in 1954, NASCAR recommending the teams install roll cages for their drivers. During the 1960s, there became a mad rush as different manufacturers started producing quicker and quicker road cars that could be turned into NASCARs. Despite the requirement for road-going variants, development surged on, and by the end of the 60s, manufacturers had created outlandish cars such as the Dodge Daytona and Plymouth Superbird. No one knew where this development would quite end up, but just a couple years later in 1972, R.J. Reynolds, known for their brand Winston, began sponsoring the series and introduced a large number of rule changes which tried to bring the competition closer together in the sport. 1 year later, again in 1973, the oil crisis saw manufacturers unable to sell their cars, and so development couldn't continue. They couldn't produce new, faster cars because they weren't selling any of their older ones. All of these events are responsible for NASCAR becoming what it is today. Hardly a stock series in any regard, but stock car has taken on its own terminology, its own brand in itself. Throughout the 70s, NASCARs evolved from their complete stock nature to specialized race cars under the hood with stock bodies bolted on top. And by the late 80s, with the Aero Wars, nothing was stock about a NASCAR anymore. They were a complete race car that somewhat resembled some road-going variants. The cars of the 90s and early 2000s were fairly ridiculous in how they looked, and NASCAR brought back some of that stock look with the 2013 Gen 6 car, trying to make them appear more like the road-going variants. And personally, I liked how those cars look, and I still like how the modern NASCARs look, although they've changed quite a bit since 2013. Surfing the internet, though, I see it come up all the time. Why isn't NASCAR stock? This is stock car racing. What is stock about it? Now, there are a lot of reasons why NASCAR doesn't run completely stock cars anymore, but it is one of those things that comes up from time to time. What would it be like if NASCAR ran stock cars in 2021? If NASCAR was looking to bring back the manufacturer-to-manufacturer competition, this would certainly do that. What you're looking at are the three road-going variants of the three cars which represent NASCAR in 2021. You've got the Chevrolet Camaro ZL1, such an aggressive-looking car. The beefy Ford Mustang, which is one of my favorite-looking cars on the road today. And then the oddly placed Camry 8 2.5. All three of these cars are almost identical to how they would be on the road, but I have made a few changes. The most noticeable is obviously the tires. Tires were one of the first things that was allowed to develop beyond what was available to the general consumer. Goodyear and Firestone at the time needed to produce pretty crazy tires to cope with the growing speeds of NASCAR. And those requirements are still very much true today. So I've allowed Goodyear to bolt on their current NASCAR tire, which I know can take the punishment of the high-speed ovals and has enough grip to put on a good race. The Chevy Camaro ZL1 and the Ford Mustang both have V8 engines. The Camaro has much more horsepower and a turbo. However, the Mustang has a higher top speed. So those two cars themselves are actually fairly competitive. I think it would depend on the track. At a big track like a Daytona, I think the Mustang would win, but at a smaller track or a road course, the Camaro would win. The odd one out here is the Camry. Toyota Camry is not a performance car, and although they have a 2.5 liter version, that car only has something like 200 horsepower and would clearly not be able to keep up with anything else. If NASCAR was to go completely stock, I think Toyota would obviously do something to put out a higher performance car. So, keeping with reality somewhat, I've decided to take the V6 engine from the Toyota Supra and swap it into the Camry. So it's still sticking with somewhat reality. I think it's one of those things that Toyota could do in theory. That puts the Camry slightly closer to the Mustang and the Camaro, and altogether puts up a pretty decent fight between the three. So that's enough talking. I want to take these things out on the track and see how they race. So to start, I figured I'd go to the home of NASCAR and what I think is one of the most common or stereotypical NASCAR tracks. Let's do a quick race at Charlotte Motor Speedway. All right, coming across the line, green flag is out as we'll work towards the first corner here at Charlotte. Everybody getting stacked up a bit as we'll come down to turn number 1, get on the low side of Eric Jones here, up to 4th gear, nowhere to go. So we'll come onto the back straightaway, get that throttle down, open it on up, over 160 miles an hour up to 5th gear. I got Christopher Bell, one of the Camrys in front, brake coming into turn number 3, back down to 4th gear. Car bouncing all around the circuit. These cars have such soft suspension compared to a modern NASCAR race car. So come around the high side of Bell, come back into turn number 1. You think of the Camaro here, the Mustang, if you drove that on the street, you would say that had a stiff suspension, but in these types of conditions, you need a much stiffer suspension than that. The cars honestly race a bit more like the 1980s style NASCAR, the amount they bounce around the circuit. We'll come back into turn number 3. Things opening up a little bit now. So we still have quite a few cars in front. Oh, I think I see some contact up there. Everybody's going to check up. Coming into the tri-oval, see if it maybe going the low side into the grass. It's not going to work, so we'll come back into turn number 1. Keep it in 4th gear, maybe 5th gear on the straightaways for this. Oh, I got a good amount of power there, a good run. So we come to the low side, get underneath Dylan. Oh, it's Benedetto slow as well. Kept it in 4th that time, just right at the top of the rev range. I'm sure the Camaro engine loving that. Chastain able to work up with me too. He started right next to me. Coming to the tri-oval, having to let off there for a second. Tuck back in here as we'll come into turn number 1. Just try to check my mirror there. Oh, cars in front so slow. Able to get on the high side of all of them. Well, then Byron fading out in front of me. It's right on the high side now through 3 and 4. Byron there skirting up in front of me as well. Oh, Joey Logano locking up a brake there coming out of turn 4. It's a bad line to take as we'll work by Martin Truex. I would not want to be racing one of the Camrys, even with the faster engine in it. It's still such a slow car compared to these. The handling characteristics are not nearly as good. So we'll come out though, turn 2. Everybody's trying to fight for position in front. It's a very aggressive grid here. Coming to turn 3. I think Byron's sneaking down low on me. Oh, and I get a tap there on the inside. Able to stick in it. Logano's car is smoking a little bit. It's got some damage on the outside, maybe been into the wall. Certainly these cars would not take much damage very well. Oh, getting a great run here on Kurt Busch. Logano was on the low side, able to swap with him. Oh, getting caught up there with Busch, both sliding in the wall. Able to hold on to it though. Rubbin's racing, I guess. Got the Days of Thunder livery. I guess I better live up to the expectations. Come across the line then, start the 7th lap. Oh, these two in front. Two of the Fords there. I think Kevin Harvick making contact. Here we go. Brad Keselowski slow on the back straightaway. Then at turn 3 and 4, Almirola giving me a punt onto the apron. Car is so slow. Car's pitting in front too. I think that was Christopher Bell maybe, or Kyle Busch. yellowish potentially, but able to make it through that. A little bit of contact here and there. No harm, no foul. So a scrappy race around Charlotte, but these things are actually a lot of fun on the oval. I wish the AI were better, obviously, in Assetto Corsa to handle this. I think this could be quite interesting to do more of, or race maybe other people online with these. The cars, once you get used to them, they bob around a lot, which is exciting. A few more cars stopping in the pits there. We'll come up behind Kevin Harvick then. Just a couple laps to go. I think everybody pitting for damage or something. Oh, it taps on the brakes there. Make a jump down low on the inside. It's only for third position, so there are a couple more cars way ahead. We'll see how fast I can get on the back straightaway here. The car is not slow at all, even though it's about half the horsepower as a full NASCAR. Over 170 miles an hour, 174. I was hoping to hit 75 into the third corner. Slide way up, understeering. There we go. We'll come out of the fourth corner. Come across the line, start, I believe, the final lap. Still in third position, but no sign of the leaders in front. But we'll just dive it into the corner. Back on the throttle. Car weaving about a little bit. I saw a car sneaking off into turn 3 way ahead. But quite a bit of fun. I think you could actually do something like this. You'd certainly need to make sure you had strong suspension parts and things in place, but the cars themselves actually race pretty well, despite the poor AI in Assetto Corsa. I've taken the cars now to Sonoma Raceway in California to do a little bit of a road race. I think these cars will be much more suited to road racing, being that they're essentially sports cars or souped up street cars. And this circuit is a great one for NASCAR. I think this is an underrated track overall. I've seen some great racing in NASCAR and IndyCar and sports cars over the years. So I want to do a 5-lap race around here. I think this will be quite a lot of fun. Let's get going. Coming to the line, green flag is out. We'll work our way towards the hill. This track has some crazy elevation changes, so we'll just bide our time here on the good line, though. This is going to turn into the inside line, stuck in behind Ross Chastain, right up to his bumper. Get it down to first gear. Oh, getting a little squirrely over the curbs now, over the crest. Got William Byron sideways on the circuit in front of me. Oh, somehow avoiding everybody as I snake on past, working to the second. Left, right, over the top of this crest, probably the most tricky part of the circuit. Now down the hill, we're taking the NASCAR version of this track, so down to second gear. I know they race the longer one now, but I've always quite liked this one for these types of cars. Work on past Christopher Bell and the poor Camry. Down to second gear, slide it around the top of the circuit there. And now work down the hill towards the S's. Got a whole bunch of cars in front here. Working over the curb, see if I can get up the inside of Dylan. Turn into the outside. Come snaking towards the end of the lap. One thing that is nice about these cars is they do have brake lights. NASCARs just have the stickers, so you can see when somebody else is braking, which I think is a good thing on a road circuit, not as good on an oval type track. Down to second gear, down to first. Ooh, Matt Benedetto filling up my mirrors there as we'll come through the hairpin. Oh, touching the back, slamming into the back there of Austin Dillon. So work 3 wide towards the line. Complete lap number 1 of 5. Just nice and easy here. Easy to run into the wall there like that. So work up the hill, down to second gear. Jones parking the car right in front of me. We're 3 wide. Not a place you'd want to do that around Sonoma. Able to get unstuck though from Austin Dillon there. We can pull out a little bit of a gap over that guy. So come down the hill once again. Oh, I'm missing my shift up to third. Down to first. Still have an H pattern. This car is a 6-speed, so still quite a lot of work with the clutch. But I think for NASCAR that's quite nice. Slamming into the back there of Ryan Newman. A lot of contact. Full contact sport, I guess. I guess I have to differentiate it from sports car racing somehow with cars like this. So work down the hill on the curb. Car breaking loose a little bit on the tires. The tires do well, but they aren't the grippiest tires in the world, so you do slide around quite a lot. Joey Logano there on the outside. So I've been following Eric Jones the whole time in his pursuit to the front. Come down to first gear, almost locking it up, so we'll come around the hairpin again. See if I can get a good run on him on the front straightaway, or whatever kind of straightaway this is, alongside the dragway here to the right. Jones blocking the line, almost running into that wall again this time. See if I can brake a little later up the hill, down to second gear, so come across the crest. Get on the throttle soon. Oh, got a couple of these slower Camrys in front. It's Bubba Wallace there. He's very slow though, he's got some damage. Slower than I would expect. Over the top of the hill. Yeah, he's got some suspension issues there. I can see the right front is turned sideways. So working on past him now, up to 7th on the 3rd lap. Second gear, oh, gonna miss the apex at the top of the hill. Luckily there's curbs just about everywhere at this circuit to help you out if you're missing the line. Some of these corners are quite tricky. Oh, I'm gonna run a little wide there. Up to 4th gear. Definitely need a little brakes around this right-hander. Alright, pulling in nicely on this little group in front now. Ooh, gonna go very deep into the hairpin. Kurt Busch in front, sliding all over the track. See if I can take advantage of that. Almost outbroke myself there too. Ooh, car's sputtering a little bit. Work across the line. And up towards the hill again. Down to 3rd. Down to 2nd here. Almirola taking a pretty tidy line in front, but the ZL1 able to out-muster him. Come over the crest then. Got just a few cars in front. Maybe I can go worst to first in this one. Oh, sliding wide. Not going to happen like that. Like I thought, these cars are absolutely awesome on a road circuit. I mean, normally the Mustang and the ZL1 are pretty much track day type cars to begin with. They have a ton of that power, the V8 power. So no wonder it suits well, just putting on even better tires on it with the NASCAR tires. But still a lot of movement in the wheel. I love to see that. It's not planted in any way. Whoa, brake down, see if I can outbrake the 48 there. Gonna run very wide. He's gonna do the crossover on me. That's definitely my fault. So we'll come to the line, get the white flag. Oh, a very slow car ahead. What do we got here? One of the Toyotas as well. Martin Truex there. Oh, Keselowski in front slamming into the wall. It would be interesting for there to be something like this. I have to imagine Ford, Chevy, and Toyota would be willing to part with a few cars to do some kind of special event. Over the crest, work it down the hill. Got Ryan Blaney in front, right against that wall there. Down to 2nd. See if I can make this apex for once. Still run a bit wide, but better than the past few times. Just get on the throttle, work it down the hill here. It's a very nice rhythm section of the circuit if you can get it right. Not exactly there, sliding a little bit wide. 4th gear then. Get it down to 3rd for this final corner here. See if I can maybe not outbrake myself. Whoa, onto the dirt a little bit. Oh, wheel hopping a little bit into the corner. Gonna run wide, of course. But we'll come out with the final corner into the line. So much fun on the road circuit with these cars. Definitely worth doing. So I had a lot of fun with this, especially on the road circuit, but do I want or do I wish NASCAR went full stock again, was fully embracing stock car? And I don't think so. I think this is really interesting for an experiment, but it's honestly sports car racing. That's what sports car racing is nowadays. And I think having specialized cars that are built specifically for ovals, that are ultra high speed and still, very aggressive looking is the way to go for something like a NASCAR these days. It's just totally a different sport now than it was, a while ago. And obviously, if they were to do this, if they were to say we're going full stock, I think manufacturers would choose differently which cars are in the series, and probably lose a few manufacturers and pick up a few other ones. But thought it'd be fun to do an experiment like this, just to have a little bit of fun as the NASCAR season is kicking off here, as a little bit of a what if. So let me know what you thought of this, or if there's any other circuits or things that you think would be fun. I wish the oval racing worked a little bit better. It did work pretty well for the kart Indy cars that I did a few videos ago, but for these ones, not as much. So if anybody knows an oval circuit out there that might work well with these, let me know. But overall, it was fun. I hope everybody enjoyed it. So let me know what you thought. Do you think NASCAR should go full stock, or do you like where NASCAR is today? I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you all again next time.